Welcome to the LZ Sports Show. And normally we would call it the landing zone, but this is definitely the lazy zone today because I am tired AF. I am so tired. I don't have words for how tired I am today. Hold on, there we go. All right. So man, that game was so long. It was so long. Man. It is what it is, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through this. I got a big mug of tea and two guests to keep me company. Well, a co-host and a guest who basically is a co-host at this point. He's been on so much. So loving this.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's no longer a guest. Has eliminated that status a long time ago with his commitment. So thank you so much
Robinson
for that.
In the chat says, stopping by to drop a like on you, going back to bed now. I get it, man. I get it. I'd love it if you hung out with us, but I understand the instinct to go to sleep. Follow us on all those social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, blah, blah, blah. And we'll get this thing going. You can also give us a call or text on the WPG Sports line. Call 431-800-4555. You can leave a message, and we'll use that on future episodes of the show. Or you can text it, and I'll actually have a conversation with you. Why not? That's what it's for, right? You can also email the LZ at thewpg.ca. So let's quickly run to my our ad package here, and when we come back, I will introduce you to the gang, and we're going to get going. Gerald, hi, you're in the chat. I see you. We'll get this going in 30 seconds. Be right back.
Make your house a better place to come home to with Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We've been delivering complete customer satisfaction for over 40 years. Whether it's a fully completed backyard escape, a completely renovated bathroom, or a premium upgrade on outdoor furniture, Aquatech is the only name you need to know. That's because if it's an Aquatech job, it's an Aquatech team working on it. No outsourcing, no subcontractors. We do it all. Visit our one-of-a-kind showroom today at 1065 Dugald Road. Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We create better places to come home to.
Hi, welcome back. Sorry about that. I pressed all the wrong buttons. This is what this day is going to do to me. I'm dying over here. So, just want to welcome you all back to the show. Thank you to Aquatech Pool Spa and Bath, and my co-host is joining me here, Mr. Keith McKnight, all the way from his home, who has slid a little to his right there for some reason. And then we got Carrie Bulkowski. No, you want to go the other way, guy.
Hello.
There you go.
Hello.
We'll get this together one day. So, Mr. Bulkowski, how you doing too?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, fired out of a cannon this morning. Absolutely not exhausted from staying up way too late watching hockey.
Like all of that was lies. So let's just get to it. I am very, very tired. I love this. I love that it was such an epic battle. It feels like the series was a full series, but at the same time, we didn't have to suffer 7 games. The Jets didn't have to go through all of that malarkey when it comes to, potential injuries and da-da-da-da-da. It wasn't an extended thing. So, gentlemen, quick thoughts on that before we actually show all the stats. The excitement of this series, can it be quantified, or is it just like a dream come true? Start with Carrie.
I think it can be quantified. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, both. It was a dream come true watching it happen, but you can also quantify it. I mean, that was the closest sweep I've ever seen. 3 of those games went to overtime. None of them were routes by any means. Edmonton came out. Mike Smith played like an absolute, madman determined to win. And, obviously Edmonton's got firepower, but ultimately we came away with the W, and that's all that matters in hockey.
McKnight?
They don't ask how. Sorry, they don't ask how. They ask how many, right?
True story.
So I'm just so impressed that they must have heard all my negativity about everything that I said. And I am just blown away about how like this actually happened, and like just like you said, it's kind of a little bit of both, but at the same time, it's about time that people people forget about me, like forget about people for myself. It's like maybe I should be giving this team a little bit more respect.
Absolutely. And you know who loves this team is the people in our chat. I've got it up on the screen there, but Simon Leung joins us in the chat as well, saying some players say they'll give their left nut to win. Blake Wheeler goes out and does it. Love it. That's thank you very much for that. James Robinson adding to that says, I would sacrifice my left nut for a series win tonight, says Wheeler. And then monkey paw curls. Love it. Love it. I love the enthusiasm. Are you guys ready for this show today? Because I have this monstrous thermos this is 2 liters of very strong tea that I'll be drinking today throughout this entire, look, I'm just going to give it a little pump right now. I don't want to get anything on my sweater here. I for those that are listening to the podcast audio version, I will tell you, I am rocking a Kyle Connor hoodie. It's my KFC hoodie. Get it away from the mic here. You like that? Love that. Love it.
Love it.
Crispy himself with the game winner.
Crispy himself.
Let's look at those stats though. 4-3 for the Jets. 43 shots for the Jets, which is something we don't often see from them. That was a huge deal in my personal opinion. We also saw 40 shots from the Oilers, which is not new. 54% in this face-off circle for the Jets versus the Oilers 46. 1 for 5 on the power play for the Jets. 1 for 4 for the Oilers. So each team grabbing an extra man marker. And the hits, 46 hits to 39. A far cry from that first game with, 68 hits I think the Jets had? But a stat that's not on that the stat that's not on the screen that I think is very important to note is that the blocked shots. The Oilers had 26 blocked shots. So add that to the 43 shots that the Jets have there. That gets up there. But what's absolutely insane to me, and this is insane to me, is that the other stat, the Jets 47 blocked shots. 47
blocked shots in this series.
No, in the last night's game.
Oh, yesterday's game. Sorry, yeah. Oh my God, that's what you do in 2 hockey games in one. It's crazy. Just to elaborate on this, I remember watching a documentary on, I believe, NHL Network when it was that channel was here in Canada, like years ago, when I was able to have Bell Express View. And I remember this one playoff game, this one player was interviewed about it, and he said there were people falling asleep in their seats by third overtime. And I said, wow, like, can you, like, I couldn't comprehend that. Then yesterday I was like watching it, and I was like, oh my God, we're going to a third overtime. I fell asleep. I didn't go to bed. I fell asleep. And I felt like one of those fans in their seats because I was in the seat here, as you could tell.
Yeah, absolutely. What a crazy game, a close game. 47 blocked shots. That's more than the Jets or than the Oilers actually got on net. And that doesn't count missed opportunities. Do you know what I mean? Like anytime they miss the net, that doesn't even count that. So what a crazy game to have gone through. Let's have a quick look at the score sheet. McDavid did make the score sheet. Draisaitl had 2 assists, so we were never going to silence them completely. But at the end of the day, the resourcefulness and I mean, look at Scheifele had 2 goals. Connor had the game winner in overtime plus an assist. Appleton had a goal. Wheeler had 2 assists. Morrissey had 2 assists. And there were a number of other Jets that had assists as well. Who else? Lowry had an assist. Pionk had an assist. I think that's it, actually. A litany, not a litany of them. But I mean, absolutely phenomenal to see. Hellebuck, 37 saves on 40 shots, 9.25 save percentage. Mike Smith, poor guy. The only guy on that entire squad I actually feel bad for is Mike Smith. 39 shots on 43 saves.
I don't feel
You don't?
bad for him.
Come on, the guy's 40 years old.
No,
And he
because
was their best player.
He just continues to He just continues to exude his inconsistencies on this team, and that's exactly why the Calgary Flames got rid of him.
Oh, come on. Like he was good. 909 a .907 save percentage in like a do or die playoff game. You can't blame anything on him. You just can't. So their next game is next season. The Jets' next game to be determined. Sorry, I did. There's a little bit of a dig, but they're
Do you want to end the internet right now?
just saying. But the Jets have to wait now because they're waiting for who wins between Toronto and Montreal, and that series looks like it doesn't want to be solved overnight. So we're gonna be doing some waiting here in the peg for to figure out who our opponent will be. In the meantime, the Gents will just get up,
Get some rest, because they're on the same equivalency with the Colorado Avalanche, right? And that's like not me trying to be cliche, right? They're going to get some rest here, like you said. They'll be able to regroup themselves, and maybe they might have some light practices as they may keep their legs under them. And here we go. Like, they are in a good position right now.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're in control of their destiny. They did what they set out to do. They did it in spectacular fashion against the odds, against the media. Everything about what they're doing is excellent to me. I enjoy it thoroughly.
Against the media. Yes, you're right, because in our last show, you mentioned, there were a lot of media outlets here in Winnipeg beyond us that, myself were saying that, this team might not be able to make it past the first round. And I remember reading some of those articles, so I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm not the only one. And then boom, here we all are now.
Exactly, right? So Gerald in the chat, who didn't give me the pronunciation key for his last name last time, so I'm not going to attempt it today. I love how mad McDavid was at some of his line mates. Yeah, he threw Puljujärvi off his line altogether. Gerald also says, then he was the only one who coughed up the puck for a game winner. Isn't that just poetic justice? Right?
Literally.
Yeah.
I think that's your classic case of trying to do
but that's
too
two
much.
Games in a row.
As
actually James Robinson's pointing that same thing out. McSwept coughed up game 3's game winner too. So I mean, but here's the thing: when you watch a basketball game and somebody absolutely just goes up and jams in someone's face and he posters someone completely, look at the guy he's postering. It's usually one of the better players on their team because they're the guys defending the guys who can do that kind of stuff, right?
Oh,
right? So
I like that.
Players
yes,
on the
and
other
that's
team
true.
that are going to be, postered because they're the guys that are defending the best guys on the other team. So McDavid coughing up the puck, it was literally a 1 in 5 chance of who was going to be the guy that coughed up the puck because McDavid was always on the ice. So, that's they ran 2 lines for a lot of that overtime stuff. So, but what did we think? Okay. Let's pause. Let's bring it back. We have a format here. We're way off topic already because we're so excited. Sorry, guys. I'm getting back on track. Player of the game, Keith McKnight. Give it to us.
Josh Morrissey. Really excited that he was able to really get himself back involved into the game too, in a good level where he can actually hit the score sheet. And we were all I don't know if I don't speak for all of us here, but he was, like, should he really have a letter on his jersey? And then now he's just showing us like why. So I'm really happy for him too, and just kind of get his confidence back up going into another playoff series here. That's good for him.
And Mr. Bilkowski.
I'm gonna cheat today, and I'm gonna take the Jets' entire first line.
That is a cheat.
And I'll give you a reason for each. Kyle Connor, who potted the game winner in spectacular fashion in third overtime. I mean, that kind of deserves accolades in itself. Mark Scheifele, who was absolutely shot out of a cannon yesterday. He played the best hockey I've seen him play in a long time. He was up the ice. He was poking hard at the puck. He was making fantastic, spinorama behind the back passes and shots. And of course, the captain, my captain, the wrench, Blake Wheeler, who took a slap shot right in the groin, looked like he had been completely annihilated left to the locker room. I thought we'd never see him again, and he was back out on the ice before you know it, and playing good hockey. And he was just a playmaker all game, setting up passes, couple of fantastic assists. That top line was our top line yesterday, no question about it.
I can't disagree. They were awesome, and you could have easily picked any one of them. Going with all three of them is an absolute cheat, but I'll allow it. Pionk. For me, Pionk was the man last night. It was on the defensive end. I'm with Mr. McKnight chose a defenseman. I'm going to pick a defenseman. Pionk had 4 hits. He had an assist on the game-winning goal. He was actually the guy that knocked that puck down. That he's the one that stole it from McDavid. No wonder Pionk is out there against Connor McDavid. He had a fantastic series, and he'd been good all season when he was given the opportunity to play against McDavid. I think he's the only defenseman who consistently shut down McDavid every single time. Everyone else, sort of in the playoffs, they really stepped up, but in the regular season, they didn't really have an answer for him. Pionk was the guy showing them, this is how you get in his head. This is how you handle McDavid. 40 minutes and 8 seconds on ice, second on the Jets only to Morrissey, and 4 minutes and 13 seconds on the power play. So he also had 6 blocked shots. So of those 40, whatever it was, blocked shots that the Jets had, he had 6 of those. I mean, he didn't use his man meat to block a shot like Captain Wrench did, but I think his contribution is just as important. But the other thing about him and the rest of the D, to be honest, the defensive sticks. He got his stick in every passing and shooting lane. He got in the way every single time. Most of our defense did last night. But sticks. That's how the Jets won that series. Getting in the way and interrupting the flow. The Edmonton could never really get set up the way they like to. And it's because of active defensive sticks. Seriously amazing. And out there, out there against McDavid and OT, can't say anything else about the guy. Pionk, player of the game for me. Gerald agrees with Carey, so apparently he's cheating too, to picking the whole front line. James Robinson says Adam Lowry, unsung hero. There's a lot of merit to that argument as well. If you argued for Adam Lowry to be the best player of the game, I'm not going to fight you. I mean, I have my thoughts, but and then Simon Young says can't pick just one POG, whole freaking team, which is way cheating. That's super cheating. I allowed it when we picked 3 guys. Simon, narrow it down. The entire D is my player of the game. Morrissey 7 blocks, Pionk and Stanley with 6, DeMello, Pullman 5 blocks, and the first line, like Carey says, that's like we're just okay. Everybody played a great game, and
I'd like to change my player of the game to everything that Simon said.
No, I denied. No. So before we get into the actual in-game topics about the actual game itself, the coaching decisions going into this, not playing Toninato, Dom Tomatoes had to sit out a couple of games and watch that. That's unfortunate. I really enjoyed a lot of the coaching decisions I saw throughout this series. Shortening up the lineup in OT, I didn't agree with as much. We didn't see any of Lewis, Thompson, Perreault. My dog's in the background here for those watching the live feed. I don't know what you're doing there, buddy, but stop ripping up my carpet. Anyway, no one's talking to you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. This is the kind of morning we're having. He was up late watching the game with me, so he's cranky. But yeah, shortening up the lines. I really wanted to see more of that fourth line in the overtime. But other than that, I enjoyed that. Any other thoughts on the coaching decisions throughout this series? Players in, players out, how they handled all that?
I think Paul Maurice made the right decisions. As much as I thought Toninato was a fantastic player and a really good replacement when he was in the game, you got to ride the horse that brought you there, or whatever the expression is.
That's certainly not it.
Okay,
the one who brought you.
Yeah. You got to dance with the horse you rode in.
I have questions about your social life, but we'll leave that for after.
You can't not play Nick Ehlers, is all I'm saying.
I agree.
He's got to be in the game. I totally agree with both coaches running their goalies through the series. We could have seen backups. I personally, quickly going back to Mike Smith, I thought he was a fantastic player for Edmonton. He was probably the most solid of all of them, and kept them in that series quite a bit. Ultimately, I don't think there was really bad coaching on either end. Occasionally, some of the matchups I was questioning, when we were running first line against first line, it seemed like our third line was having a lot more success. But ultimately, again, the only thing that matters is the W on the scoreboard.
That is the thing that matters most is the big number that's bigger than the other big number. That one. Another example of the Jets needing to score 4 goals to win, which people have been saying all year is not sustainable. But through this playoffs, I mean, they won 3 games and they scored 4 or more goals. 4 or more goals? What is this? 4 or more goals in 3 of those. 3 games, they scored 4 or more goals in. So I challenge you to tell me how that's not sustainable at this point. That's their game plan. Zoner even said it last night. He's like, this is their brand. And he said it yesterday in the show. This is the Jets' identity. Heart attack hockey, he called it. And I can't agree more. I created a heart attack emoji for our group chat because it was so necessary.
I created a heart attack tape job and you don't like it.
Well, because your heart doesn't have an E in it. And that it's a crime against eyeballs. That tape job. It's terrible. Terrible. Okay, we're getting off topic again. This is one of those mornings where nobody's slept. We're hyped up on all of our adrenaline, but that's the only thing keeping us awake at this point. The resilience of this Jets team can't go unnoticed. It wasn't a perfect series. They made a lot of mistakes a lot of times, especially in those last 2 games at home, but they persevered. They kept going, and it was all heart. Gentlemen, any comments on the resilience of this team?
Yeah,
I gotta remember to keep throwing it to people.
They are resilient. Yeah, I think we saw it a lot earlier in the season. Was and you call it resilience. You could call it the sort of ability to muck through games, to dig yourself a hole and then climb out of it. The Jets are great at playing at a deficit and finding a way to win. And that's very important this time of year because you're not always going to get the bounces. You're not always going to get the first goals. I think it speaks a lot to the depth of the Jets lines. The fact that you have a third line that could be a first line. The fact that you have a fourth line that just absolutely neutralizes opponents. And yeah, I mean, geez, it's your Adam Lowry's and your Mason Appletons and your Pierre-Luc Dubois who just grind it out and do the right thing and maybe aren't getting on the score sheet and getting the accolades. But they are a big part of those wins as well.
I can't argue with that. McKnight, anything to add?
I have to agree. The resilience of this team is showing why they're being able to prove everybody wrong, including myself. Can't get over it. Open my big mouth way too soon.
Speaking of people making crazy statements, Mr. Bilkowski, are you a witch?
No, because you'll know yesterday I had predicted that we would see Kopp get the
But
game
I want to point
today.
out that he actually did. Remember that there was that really quick whistle where the puck wasn't actually covered? Goes to Kopp's stick, Kopp pots it. But the whistle had gone like a second before that. And so otherwise Kopp would have got the game winning goal. You're a wizard,
That's
Cappy.
true. And let's not forget, I did also jokingly predict
Short
a
rough.
sweep for the Jets as
Which
well
is why
at
I'm
the start
bringing
of
it
the
up. You
series.
joked about the sweep. There was a couple other things you actually predicted. Oh, you called the 1-game suspension on Archibald. And then in our chat you were like, here's a bold prediction. That was Archibald's last game of the season because the Jets are going to win tonight and Kopp's going to score the winning goal. And holy crap, all of that happened. It was disallowed unjustly.
Here we are.
But
Do you think we can get head office to review that now and maybe give Kopp the goal?
I doubt it. I think the way it played out after 3 overtimes, if they're just like, you know what, all of that didn't count, there would be riots in Edmonton, and I think half our team would punch somebody in the face. I don't even know who. But man, they went out there and they fought hard. In the chat, Gerald says our coaching was excellent. We won. Hard to argue. True story. Underdogs, says James Robinson. Underdogs, no quit in them. Battle to the end. Love it. I mean, honestly, the early whistle was a big deal. Yes, we're talking about that in the chat too. That was gross. It was gross, and it cost them all that time. It didn't cost the Jets the game in the long run, but it easily could have. That was 3 overtime periods of heart attack hockey, which is what the Jets play. And it was rough out there, man. It was rough out there. And after 3 OT periods, it's absolutely easy to see why, like Simon Luke says, I totally forgot about the early whistle, so that's a thing that happens.
It's that early whistle, fortunately, ultimately wasn't a deciding factor, but if the Oilers had come back and won that game and maybe turned the tide of the series, that could have been something that, we as Jets fans would look on it as this curse for a long time. So very happy that wasn't an impact, because that puck at no point was covered up. It bounced off of Smith and our guys potted the rebound, and somehow that's worthy of a stoppage.
I understand where the referee was, what he saw, and why the whistle went. That doesn't make me like it. I just understand it. That I don't have a problem with. But another thing that was brought up in the chat there, James Robinson saying Nurse with delay of game should have been 5-on-3. Now that, less evidence, but a lot more of a really that should have been a penalty. But it wasn't called on the ice, and to overturn that, you need unequivocal evidence to overturn a call made on the ice or not called on the ice. And in that particular case, they didn't have the evidence required to say for sure that didn't hit the glass on the way out. So whether it did or it didn't, he says it did. Obviously he would. But, 3 Jets reacted simultaneously. I would bet that all 3 of those guys, if one guy's like, hey, that went over, that's one thing. But 3 Jets at the exact same time were all yelling that went up and over without hitting the glass. So I would tend to think that that's what happened.
That's where I would get up at the game as a fan and being like, who's paying this ref?
And listen, somewhere in the first overtime period, Nurse broke a record playing the most minutes of any Oiler in any game ever, apparently. And it was like 47 minutes and something.
Out of the end. Oh my gosh.
He ended, and Simon Lung just pointed it out in the chat. Nurse played an insane 62 minutes. And he says, I would have bet on him being the one to make a mistake. And I think he did make a mistake, but he got away with it, that's the difference. So
he had a couple close calls, actually, where a puck almost got away from him, and it was almost the difference maker in that game. But, you still have to applaud anyone who can go out there and just have lungs of steel and play for that amount of time.
The entire game, it was a game of moments. It wasn't a game of up, down, up, down, up, down. It was a game of, there was a moment, and then it was just back and forth, battle. And then there was each team kept having moments of okay, there's this 1 minute where we've just controlled the play, and you know what I mean? Then that's where the goals sort of came. So it was really fun to watch those moments happen, and then the exciting up down back and forth of the rest of that game was so wide open. It's that heart attack hockey where you're just like, okay, we get a chance, you get a chance, we get a chance, you get a chance. There weren't a lot of like set up, let's, sustained pressure. That isn't the kind of game that these two teams wanted to play, and that played to the Jets' advantage. Because when the Oilers don't have the depth that the Jets do, and that is literally why the Jets beat the Oilers in this series, in my opinion, was the depth. They got depth scoring. When you're relying on, they say in the playoffs your first two lines cancel each other out, and then it's up to the third and fourth line to sort of figure out who's better. We have the best third line in the game, arguably the best fourth line in the game. And so when we canceled out their top two lines in those first two games, it was all about that depth, which the Oilers don't have. So that's how we ended up winning those games. Thoughts on that? The depth that we have, like
highly reliable, highly dependable guys that on that bench, right?
100%. And full team effort. We can't get away from that. Every single player on that ice was in it to win it.
Oh, sure. Every single guy. Oh yeah, I agree.
And watching the Jets do that as a team was phenomenal. Carrie, walk us through like how great was it to see this version of the Jets versus what we saw during that losing streak at the end of the season there. How great is it because they don't care about this regular season anymore, but as a fan, we still have that memory just sitting there in our chest. And, walk us through the difference.
Sure. So, there's the sort of running joke that one of two teams is going to show up. It's going to be the Jets or the Jerts. And we saw the Jerts for, a 7-game stretch there, which honestly, even during that losing streak, they showed flashes of greatness, and they showed a lot of the tenacity and of the sort of style of hockey that they played through the last 4 games. They just didn't get the bounces and maybe didn't quite have the rockets in their skates that they did, going into the playoffs here. But, I'm not saying I'm surprised by their success, because I'm genuinely not. I've thought they were a great team all season. They were a great team who had a slump rather than a mediocre team whose record was better than who they are. And yeah, I mean, it feels incredible to have them play that kind of hockey and be that good. If I can just point out for 1 second, we were talking a lot about the underdog status and things like that. Money Puck, which I don't put a lot of credence in, but which for good reason. They only have Winnipeg as a 26.5% chance of winning the next round.
You don't even know who the opponent is.
You don't know who the opponent is. If it's Montreal, that's a team who, for a lot of the season, we sort of had their number. They took a couple on us as well, but and if it's Toronto, we also had some very decisive victories against them this year. I think that's a really insulting number. I'm not a real gambler, but I put money on the last series for the Jets, and I'm definitely going to put money on the next series for the Jets, because I think they are much better than those stats show there.
Jets really hate Money Puck. Well, that was in the chat from James Robinson there. But honestly, Money Puck hates the Jets. It doesn't matter what stat they put out there.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely skewed against the Jets. And I don't understand where their analytics come from. So I don't understand what that math is that says that. It's just a bunch of guys going like, well, all the commentators said that the Oilers were going to win, so we did that.
They asked the Sportsnet panel what they thought of the next series.
Can we pause for a second? I don't like talking ill of other broadcasters while broadcasting. However, Sportsnet has a monopoly on this game in the playoffs in Canada. Period. Every single game runs through the Sportsnet network, and every single panel is absolutely biased. If the Leafs are playing, it's the worst. But the second team that they've backed is the Edmonton Oilers. So whoever the Oilers play, unless they're playing Toronto, is going to be heavily favored on that broadcast, to the point where they barely mentioned the Jets during the first intermission, and they didn't mention the Winnipeg Jets at all in the second intermission. At all. Not even a little bit. Drove me insane.
You know what? Good. Keep putting us in that underdog spot. We seem to thrive under those conditions.
Yes, I agree. But I also want to point out, after the game, the regulation was over, and we saw Captain Wrench take one in the ball-peen hammer for the team. I mean, the guy sacrificed his nuts. And at the intermission, they show that clip, and then in order to show context, they grabbed a clip of Horkoff jumping and blocking a shot for the Oilers in the 90s or wherever they got that clip from. You know, why? Like, why does everything have to be about the Oilers and how it relates to the Oilers on a national broadcast? Drives me insane. And normally I would switch to the US feed through the NHL app or whatever, but the NBCSN guys were even worse somehow. It was bad. If you're the only broadcaster that's carrying the game in Canada, have a little bit of decorum. Show a little less bias. Be less blatant about it, maybe. At least pretend that you don't care more about one team than the other. That's my ask. That's my rant. Anybody want to throw in on that? Carrie, sounds like you do.
Let's just say if we do end up against the Leafs in the next round, prepare for, let's say 4 more games of that, because I don't think they're all of a sudden gonna grow some Jets fandom. We're gonna hear all about Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and Jumbo Joe, and you're not gonna hear about Kyle Connor or Blake Wheeler or any of our other incredible players who are out there.
And going to the chat box real quick, Harris Gale joins us in the chat. Hello there, Harris. He says, level of unapologetic fawning over a team that was down 3-0 going into that game was maddening. And I agree. I'm with you. That was it was inappropriate. It was unfair. It was disgusting. And, the game was over and barely even mentioned Jets after winning, says James Robinson, which is true. At the very, very end, they talked about, after the game was over, they talked about it was how the Oilers, they lost out, how the Oilers did this, how the Oilers should have done this, blah, 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 blah. And at the very, very end, Ron McLean just slaps on the end, and, the Jets deserved the win. Okay, next up. And you're just like, that was a 3 overtime game. And the only mention of the team that won was the last half of a sentence that you just thought of on the fly. Go back and watch the broadcast again. At the very end, you hear Ron McLean go, and, the Jets deserve to win as well. It was this throw in, like we need your table scraps. I was furious.
Can I say something nice about Sportsnet?
Yes, somebody's got to balance this crap out.
Hanarian Singh really grew on me throughout that series. We had seen him earlier in the season, sort of being a real Alberta homer, and he definitely still got very excited every time that McDavid touched the puck. He'd get a little quiver in his voice and kind of jumpy. But he really made an effort to call a unbiased series, especially as it went on. I noticed specifically that he corrected his pronunciation on a couple of players. He used to say Paul Stastny, and Derek Forbort, and both of those he sort of eased up on the enunciation a little bit and went with he got it right. He still says Scheifele, but I like that, and I hope he doesn't change that. I want to be fair, that keep a little of your character.
That is how it's spelled, Scheifele. So I get it. And I'm with you. I liked it, but yeah, I think Singh really settled into it. The other fellow, it was Craig Simpson, was the other guy, right? Oh,
DeBrusque.
Yeah, he did
DeBrusque.
not grow on me throughout that series. The way he, like every time a Oiler touched the puck, you could tell. Like if you were a person listening to the radio station, and it just his voice of the game, you could know which team had the puck based on how DeBrusque said the player's name. Because he was way more excited to say Edmonton names than he was Winnipeg games. Well, that's enough. Okay, we're again way off topic. I just wanted to address that because it irked me, and I know it really bothered a lot of other fans. The last night on the Illegal Curve show, Drew Mindell was absolutely furious about the way that they covered that game as well. And he's another guy that doesn't normally crap on other broadcasters and the way that they do things, but that was and unapologetic is the word. That was the word. Who said that in the chat? I'm pretty sure. Harris Gale. Unapologetic. They just didn't give it up. McKnight, any thoughts on that? You've been quiet this time.
Yeah, really just didn't give it up, and can't agree less, can't agree more.
It's pronounced Nicolaj, says James Robinson in the chat. I love that. Yeah. It was. I missed on Cherry, says Gerald, who didn't give me a pronunciation key for his last name. So Gerald says McLean sucks. I missed on Cherry. He would have gave a shout out to the Jets. Absolutely, he would have. He was a big Boston supporter who, when Boston wasn't playing, was a Toronto supporter. So. But that's the CBC's mandate and has been hockey. Like, it's been Hockey Night in Toronto forever, right? It's not, Hockey Night in Canada has been a bit of a misnomer for the last 30 years. But hopefully with this whole all Canadian division thing, next year will be a little different. We'll see a little more even coverage, especially with the Jets doing as well as they're doing. And if Montreal can manage to come back and win that series against Toronto, what is Sportsnet going to do? Both of their horses out of the race. So we'll see whose bandwagon they jump on at that point. Probably Montreal. They've been around for a little bit longer, like 100 years or something like that extra. But it is what it is. The other thing is now the Jets are off. They've got a big block of time off while we wait for this Toronto-Montreal series. Is that good? Is that bad? Hit us up in the chat. Let us know what you think. But I'm gonna throw it to the panel. We'll start with Keith McKnight. Is it good or is it bad that now we have at least a week off to wait for Toronto-Montreal?
I think it's good. I think this is a good position for them to get some rest, because when that series is over, you never know. There might not be a lot of time in between when that series is over for the other team to start playing the Jets. And when you're playing a well-rested team, I don't think when we think about giving them rest, it's not like Paul Maurice is not going to have them practice, right? So they just take it a little bit lighter and not have just look at their opponents right now and see what's going to happen. So I don't think it's too much of a bad thing. What do you think, Carey?
I think it's both. I think they're a hot team right now, and you kind of want to ride that momentum. When Connor Hellebuck's on fire, the last thing you want to do is have him sit down for 5 to 9 days and not continue playing. But it's also, the Jets just played back to back, one day after the other, overtime games, one of which went into triple overtime. Someone on Reddit said basically they played 3 games in 2 days, and of playoff intensity hockey. That's going to wear you down. You saw by the end of the game, our players were tired. You saw some sloppy zone clearances. You saw at one point Blake Wheeler just kind of like fell over backwards. They were exhausted, and both teams were. But I think it'll be a really good thing for them to get some rest, catch their breath. Wheeler can ice down his crotch for a while, and hopefully they can come back and play with the same energy that they have.
Oh my God! But yeah, I agree with everything I could hear out of there. But I was literally crying at a point, laughing so hard in the chat. James Robinson said, because we talked about they get this big long break, and James Robinson says Wheeler's wife also gets a break. Oh, I'm dying. That's so good. Oh, man.
But
Thank you for being here, James.
but
I
let-
appreciate you. But continue, Carrie. Sorry to interrupt.
I was just going to say, let's hope that Toronto-Montreal series goes to 7 games and that they just beat the snot out of each other through the whole thing.
Simon Leung says rest is good. Can scouts can scout films a potential opponent? I like Helly getting rest. I thought the Jets overplayed him during the season. I don't know if they overplayed him. He's the kind of guy that wants to play every single game. I think the challenge with Hellebuck is getting him to sit out a game so Brossoit can play. I think that's been the challenge with him this year. And I mean, absolutely a coach should be saying no and should be able to say no to a player. I agree wholeheartedly. But, when you got a guy that's just dialed in like that, I mean, that 7-game losing stretch notwithstanding, they had a phenomenal season. And letting him play when he feels good to play, I don't see the problem with. So I don't agree with the part about you say they overplayed Helly. I like him getting the rest. Absolutely. I'm with you there. And it does give them time to look at game film and all that of both opponents. It's going to have to be until they figure it out. But, I'm still suffering the ill effects of laughing so hard at that. Man, Wheeler's wife also gets a break. That got me. Just, when you're the right level of tired and that joke just lands. Boom, right there. That hit me right in the bullseye. Love it. Oh, James, what would we do in the chat without you? But anyway, so I disagree with overplaying him during the season. What do you gents think? Keith, do you think that he was overplayed during the season? Do you think that this rest is overdue, or do you think that they've done a good job playing him when they need to and not?
I think they've done a good job playing him when they need to, but not saying they overplayed him. I just think this rest is going to be good for him. Just give him a little bit of a break here from a playoff. As Kerry was saying, it's intense, right? So it's a different of a beast, as you were saying in the last show yesterday. So I think he deserves it.
And Mr. Bilkowski?
Yeah, if you ask Connor Hellebuck, he's not been overplayed. He would probably start every game for every team in the league if he had a choice. He's a guy who's game. He wants to be in there and play. And honestly, I haven't really seen him look tired. Over the losing stretch, he maybe didn't play his best hockey of the season. But even then, it's not like he was exhausted. Even at the end of the game yesterday in third overtime, he was still standing up, making great saves and looking strong. And I don't think Hellebuck's the kind of goalie that you really can overplay. I think he thrives on that and just wants to be in all the time.
Yeah, I've already said my piece on that, so obviously I agree with you that he doesn't think he's overplayed. I don't think he's been overplayed, and we'll see what sort of happens there. Now, as we look forward to the rest of this, let's have a look at the stats from the playoffs. These are the scores. Oh, don't you just love seeing 4 next to the Winnipeg there? Isn't that great? And even more salt in that wound is that big old goose egg next to Edmonton. Love it.
No, the best is when you put Edmonton's next game is next.
Oh, on
season.
the score sheet at the bottom.
That's a profile picture right there.
That's cruel.
It's accurate, right? It's accurate. But looking at the games standings right now in the playoffs here, Pittsburgh is down 3-2 to the Islanders. So number 1 seed potentially being knocked off in that particular series. The time will tell. I forget what's the no, they don't play. They play tomorrow. So that series could potentially be over tomorrow if the Islanders win. Obviously, Boston beat Washington. We're already over that. Colorado beat the crap out of St. Louis. Vegas is up, but they couldn't finish off Minnesota last night. So they'll get another chance tomorrow as well. That's a late one. It's an 8 p.m. start for us here in Winnipeg. Florida is just trying to stay alive over there against Tampa Bay as well. They will get another shot at Tampa Bay, will get another shot at knocking Florida off tomorrow night as well. So those are the 3 games happening tomorrow. And then tonight we're going to see Nashville, Carolina at 7 p.m., which it's weird. There's only 2 games tonight. There's a 6:30 game and a 7 o'clock game. 6:30 is Toronto Montreal playing a back-to-back. The Toronto beat Montreal last night 2-1 to go up 2-1 in the series. So we'll see how Montreal bounces back in Montreal for this 4th game. And Carolina heading back to Carolina, hoping to have the same success they did the first 2 games there. But they're struggling against this Nashville team who just doesn't want to go away. We've sort of looked at that, but here's the graphic that I like the best, guys. And for those, sliding that Winnipeg name over made me feel so good last night when I was doing these graphics up. It hit me right in the heart. I loved it. So now there's 3 teams already advanced: Boston, Colorado, Winnipeg. We're now waiting in our division for Toronto, Montreal. But there's 3 games that could potentially end series tomorrow night, and tonight's games will not end series. That's for sure. Whether Montreal or Toronto wins, we're going to keep moving on that. Hopefully Montreal can win, give us a little extra break. We talked about how it's nice to get that extra rest and look at that game tape, practice, have that time off. Unfortunately, it's in the bubble, so players can't really take that time to relax too much. But, they can't go visiting friends and this, that, and the other thing you normally would be able to do and take that week to sort of chill and, at least have one night where you get to have a beer. Because the playoffs are just intense, right? It's just such a physical toll on your body. And this year it's such an extra mental toll on everyone's body. So looking at the rest of the league and what's happening here, who do we expect to come out of these other series, gentlemen? Let's start with Keith McKnight. Let's go over the
New York Islanders. I'm going to take them over the Pittsburgh Penguins because of the great coaching from Barry Trotz, and being from Manitoba, Barry Trotz, Manitoba's finest. Because he dethroned Ovi, right, when he was coaching. When the Islanders beat the Capitals, and then now all of a sudden he's in the opportunity to dethrone Sid the Kid, and I think he's going to do it. I don't know how much Vegas has much confidence heading into the series to close out the Minnesota Wild, because they can't really go away either. This game that you have Carolina and Nashville, yes, it goes to show, Carolina was the number 1 team statistically and record-wise, league overall. And then they're just kind of like the Edmonton Oilers, where they just may not be able to get it done. And then the Montreal and the Toronto series, I don't know. It'll be really... All I can say is that, we were talking about this off air, is that if the Jets play Montreal, I think they'll sweep them. But if they play Toronto, it'll probably go to 7.
Okay. So you think if it's Montreal, we sweep them? That's a pretty bold...
Yeah, I don't think we'll have any problem with Montreal.
Really?
There's just too much drama in Montreal.
What about
I'd
Carey
be very
Price,
surprised.
though? He can steal games on his own. At least a couple games.
Yes. The only Carey I'm worried about is the guy I'm looking at on my screen right now.
Okay, we'll throw it to you, Mr. Bilkowski. What do you think happens here? Who are we more scared of, Toronto or Montreal? Because I think the Jets can win in either case, but it'll be a very different series one way or the other. And then I'll expand that to the rest of the rest of the field out there. Who do you think is a team to be careful around going forward?
Sure. So I think, the Jets had better success in the regular season against the Canadians. And they're probably a better matchup for us. But having said that, I would have said we were a really bad matchup for the Oilers, and we saw how that went. We managed to really sort of outmuscle them and win that series. I'm just going to quickly go down. I wrote down just at the start of the playoffs my predictions for every series. I'm going to quickly blast through those. I picked Montreal to beat Toronto. I picked the Islanders to win. I did pick the Capitals to beat the Bruins, and obviously we know how that went. I have Carolina to win that series, and I have the Panthers to win theirs. I had Colorado to win, and I have Minnesota to beat the Golden Knights, and I still think that can absolutely happen. They are a young, fast, really scary team.
Well, the thing about that series, they were down 3-1. So it's very, very hard to come back from a 3-1 deficit. You have to win all 3 games straight against a team that has an insane goal differential in the Vegas Golden Knights. So I don't have as much faith in that particular series as you do. However, I understand, like I wouldn't be completely blown away if Minnesota were to win the next 2 games and take that series. I wouldn't be. What I don't want to see is that repeat of 2 years ago where we somehow run into the friggin' Vegas Golden Knights and they beat us again. I don't want to see that. Mr. McKnight, keep your mouth shut. You ruined it last time.
I did.
Your white glove conspiracy theory. But
wouldn't you love to see a Winnipeg Minnesota series?
That
though?
Would be intense.
Wouldn't that be an incredible, like, hockey cities against each other?
Yeah, and if Nashville somehow survives that series against Carolina, running into them could be, sort of cathartic if the Jets can manage to knock them off too. We've slayed that Oilers beast. We've never beat them in the playoffs before, so that's done. Got that out of the way. We lost that series to Nashville, but we beat Nashville in a series. It's that rivalry with Nashville is huge. I think that would be a huge win and a huge lift for this city and all those players. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on in this season. We're nearly running out of time. Is there anything that anyone in the chat wants us to bring up, and or you two gentlemen, before we leave? Yesterday we ran out of time before we really talked about anything around the league because we were so. I mean, overtime games. There's just so much to talk about, and they basically almost played 2 full games last night. So. James Robinson in the chat says if the Jets face the Knights, Buff will come out of retirement to finish them off. That's a fun thought. But anything else out there, gentlemen, for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing sort of teams fall into their place as far as what kind of playoff teams they're going to be and what things are going to look like going forward. And I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm very excited for it.
I'm very excited as well. I'm very excited. Any final thoughts here, Keith McKnight?
I'm just excited to see where this series goes and let the Jets get some rest, get some good food in them, and at least keep their legs under them too, though, regardless of how much rest they get.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Too much time off can be a bad thing. That's been argued before on every sports forum ever. We get a break, but if it's too long, then it's rough to get back into game shape when you're not playing games. All that said, I want to thank everybody in the chat who's joined us today. I want to thank my fellow panelists here, my co-host Keith McKnight, Carrie Bilkowski. Thank you so much for being here. I want to remind everyone out there, you can follow us on all the social medias. WPG Magazine is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. And please like and subscribe. That's a huge thing. It costs you nothing. It's one click. It goes a long way to help us out. So please feel confident enough in us that you want to like our stuff. We really like that. We're gonna keep creating these, whether you support us or not. So you're welcome, and I'm sorry at the same time. Actually, I'm not sorry. Streamlabs.com/the WPG Magazine is where you can go if you want to support the stream at all. Anything that you donate to us through there, half of which we're going to give to local charity. The other half goes to help keep this whole thing afloat. Again, we're going to keep doing this one way or the other. But it allows us a little more leeway when we have a little extra cash on hand to sort of, get some the right softwares and that kind of thing. So we would love it if you bought us a coffee or a beer through that streamlabs.com link, streamlabs.com/the WPG Magazine. Again, always you can call and leave a voicemail and or text the WPG Sports Line 431-800-4555 or email the LZ at thewpg.ca. For all of us here in the LZ, we will see you next time, which, by the way, we don't know when that will be. Bye, everybody.